Hi, guys. My name is Eric. I'm part of a group with Chancery Mining. Max and Jeremy will be joining me in just a minute, but we've basically kind of inherited this channel. It's been handed to us from Jim, who's the guy that used to do this channel. We're going to pick up the baton where it was left off quite a while ago. And hopefully anybody that's subscribed will enjoy the banter. We're probably just going to have some really fun discussions about markets, about commodities, about mining, etc. Probably the same things that you guys, the same reasons why you guys used to tune in the first place. So hopefully you guys will enjoy the channel. Like I said, Max and Jeremy will be joining me in just a minute. But essentially, we are the investor relations team for a company called Chancery Mining, and we have various projects that are across the gold space, gold mining, gold royalty, tungsten mining as well. We have a big tungsten project that's going on right now. So really, we're just going to be talking about markets that that everybody knows about, for example, gold and silver, and some that maybe people don't know about, which would be things like tungsten and maybe some other things as well. So hopefully you guys will stay tuned in and you'll get to know us, and maybe you'll bring your friends as well and subscribe. So with that, I would like to introduce Max. He's got his
Good,
Pilar Gold hat on.
good afternoon, Eric.
I've I'm showing up today with my pure tungsten hat.
Okay.
I've already kind of introduced us to the audience and let everybody know that we have basically inherited the channel, and we're going to be having some fun banter about markets, about commodities, and things of that nature, which would have been the reason that they tuned into the channel in the first place. So, and there's Jeremy. So the whole gang is here. So
Um,
I've given the audience an introduction about sort of that we've inherited the channel and kind of who we are. You know, I told everybody we're just going to have some nice banter about markets, about commodities. We're mostly in gold, and we have a pretty big tungsten project going on. I've got my tungsten hat on. So, um, yeah, what do you think about what's going on?
well, last week was pretty rough, but I think that was the bottom in gold. No, that's we're heading to 7,000 by Christmas, don't you think? What do you reckon?
I think it may personally it may consolidate into April. I don't think if we haven't hit the bottom, it's not very long until we do. But I think anybody who knows what's actually happening in the long term knows that gold is going to places that most of us haven't couldn't possibly expect.
Yeah,
Eric, you raised a good point. I think it would be nice on this channel actually over a period of a few weeks to explore the different drivers in gold. 'Cause it's quite a complex equation that you guys know better than I do, but I think there's some fascinating information in terms of what's happening in the markets and how that's going to impact and get us to hopefully 7,000.
Yeah, 7,000 is definitely the next step, but we're going well beyond that into the future. But I think that's a good point. I think that we should do that, Max. So for those watching, I think in future episodes we'll probably go over the drivers of what's actually happening and why. We've already kind of completed the first leg up, right? So I guess we could talk about that right now because it's already happened. So I don't know, what do you think was responsible? I have my view on what was responsible for that, but what do you guys think?
you mean the run to 5,600,
Yeah,
Eric?
yeah.
Just huge physical buying probably, and also just a lot of shorts that got squeezed. And is that right? What do you reckon?
I think a big part of it was definitely central banks. Maybe, you know, there's trillions of dollars of US treasuries out there, and central banks like China that are dumping the treasuries, they're loading up on gold. And I reckon that it wasn't just China. But I think that the retail crowd hasn't even begun to get in yet. And that's where we're really going to see things start to go parabolic in years to come. But right, that first leg was really just institutional, I think. And like you said, probably short squeezes, but mostly I think it's central bank and institutional buying, in my opinion.
And
So,
the good news is there's no supply. I mean, we must be one of the few groups that are bringing on 4 gold mines this year, and probably barely two hands for the rest. Right? It's an industry that's been starved of capital for the last 15 years.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
you've probably
indeed.
just piqued the interest of everybody watching when you say that we're bringing 4 gold mines online. So we'll discuss that as well.
What might be interesting, just before we get into how it's going to kick back and go back up, is just to have a quick look at why it dipped so heavily in the last few weeks. Guys, I'm sure you both got your views, but what I'm picking up online is a number of factors. It's sort of a triple hit, really, isn't it? The dollar strengthened, and so people, of course, gravitate to the dollar very easily. With the uncertainty in the economy, people want to liquidate, and so I think there was a bit of that going on as well. And gold is probably the easiest thing to liquidate in terms of anything you're holding, I would have thought. And then there was a third one. Help me out here. I can't remember what the third one was in terms of the cause on the dip. Yeah, treasury bonds. Of course, you mentioned it.
Just panic selling, I guess.
Well, I think
But
Yeah, but
yeah,
profit taking could have been part of it. Obviously, like you guys know that I trade and I tend to look a lot at the different cyclical aspects of it. So I think it was just time. It was a cycle, but typically the news
yeah,
just fits the
yeah.
cycle. So I think that there was a
But
lot of profit
also the
taking.
treasury bonds were looking a little bit more attractive, so that the halt from the exit of treasury bonds had reversed a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's what's happened. Now I think we're seeing a sort of the natural spring effect that you get after a big downturn, that people are realizing it's not as bad as everybody thinks it is, and then come back into the market. And so we're seeing it creep back up
Well,
again, which is
the smart money will grab with both hands as we get down toward a support. So even if we haven't hit a bottom, even if it drops into April, which I think there's a pretty good chance it may, or consolidate, the smart money is gonna be going in with both hands anyway, because it's simply a discount. Anybody who understands where gold is going in the long term, this is simply when it runs back to support, it's just at a discount. That's all. It's on sale. So that's the
I'll
way I
bet
look
you
at it.
$100, Eric. You won't go back and test those in April. I bet you in April will be 3,000, 5,000. But let's see. Yeah,
I
it's a
would
great.
I would love it if it was. Let's see.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, these sell-offs are so short now. They used to last for months, and then they last for weeks, and then now they last for days. So
Yeah.
we've probably had the most consistent call on gold over the last 2 years, haven't we? We when gold was 2,300, we said it would go to 4,500, and when we thought it'd get to 5,500 by Chinese New Year, it got there a bit before then, and then 7,000 by Christmas. So what a time to be building a royalty group. Also, Chancery Royalty. We're going to announce, as you know, guys, we've got to keep this top secret, but we're announcing our 5th producing royalty next week, aren't we? It's the fastest growing royalty group. So yeah, watch that space. But mate, the hat you're wearing, I'm happy to call you old gold, Eric. You are the old gold of the face of this channel. But the hat you're wearing, tell us about the tungsten market, because let's be honest, tungsten is a little bit more interesting than gold right now.
Price wise, yeah, it is. So, within a span of I guess it's been about 10 or 11 months, um, the price of tungsten was at about $350 per MTU. Now it's up at $3,000 per MTU. So, in layman's terms, that's about $300,000 per ton. So that price has rocketed. I mean, you could do the math, but that's round about 600% in like 10 months. So it's the market that, if for the ones who are in the know, they're diving in with both hands, and for the ones who are unaware of it, when they become aware of it, they're very excited about it. So our project, Pure Tungsten, has seen so much volume of new investors to come in. We're pre-IPO, as all our companies currently are. But we've had such an influx of new investors for this new round of funding. It's been pretty incredible, because when people learn about tungsten and the uses of it, and really the reasons that the market is shot up so high, and the fact that they can get into a pre-IPO company that is extremely undervalued, let's be honest. We're many, many multiples undervalued compared to our nearest peer. So everybody's trying to pile in, which is a good thing. We're providing
And
a
Eric,
good opportunity. Yeah,
do you think that, I mean, because we've had 50 years of no investment in tungsten also, haven't we? There's been no new mines.
yeah,
And our mine in South Korea is next door to the famous Almonte mine. And
that's
Almonte's
right.
been, and I think if it's right, you told me that it's only one of, these are the only two big mines coming on in the Western world this year. And they're all both coming from South Korea and both sound the exact same name. Ours is Sanjong and Almonte's Sandong. So it's very easy
Yeah,
to get confused.
I have a buddy who lived in Korea for a while. He's an English teacher, and he lives here with me in Thailand. And anyway, he was asking me, oh, because we were talking about tungsten. He's actually invested in Chancery and tungsten, and he was asking me again, like, where's the mine in Korea? And I said, oh, it's in Sangjong. He said, oh, okay, well, that's not too far from Seoul. And I said, no. But our nearest peer, who's the one that's already public, is in Sangdong. And he goes, oh, those are really close. I said, yeah, they're about 30 Ks apart. So when you start to look at those things and you see our valuation and you see the valuation of the one that's just down the road, it's absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
So that's why everybody's
It's
piling in.
also to give the viewers some reference in terms of total metric tons of material. If we levy a like-for-like grade, we're a little bit more than half the size of Almonte. If you look at their share price, it was hovering around 26 Canadian, and we're currently offering at 50 cents. So
Yes.
it gives you some sense of the potential upsides, which is incredible.
And
Yeah.
Max, you and I went to Korea last summer, and we've got a trip in April. Mineko 64 is coming, which is very exciting. Eric, you're hosting that trip, and anyone watching should join us. Tiger is one of the great hosts when we go to Seoul, and I think we were just blown away, weren't we, Max, by the world-class nature of Sanjong. It's a huge
Yeah.
system, very young, and to think that it's going to be 8% of new Western world supply is coming from our little company that is really very, it makes you proud, right? It's really exciting what's going on at Pure Tungsten. But also, Max, you went to the bigger mine we have in Pure Tungsten in Tajikistan. Tell us about that trip just quickly. What did you think of Tajikistan?
Well, of course, Eric was with me, but it was hugely entertaining for a number of reasons. Only some of which I'll talk about on this chat today. But the mine itself is incredible. The first thing that strikes you is, how did anybody find this? It was deep into the hills. We took a road up to a fairly high altitude. It was high enough that at some points I was struggling to
Yeah.
catch my breath. And the first thing that you see is about 2 million tons of tailings that are sitting there that we've had sampled coming in at 0.44%. So that's about double the global average for grade, sitting there ready to be trucked to a nearby uh, flotation facility that we've got as part of the deal. And the other thing that strikes you is not so much what you can see, because the mine was closed down in the 70s, so it's not much to look at. But it's the knowledge that we've got a feasibility study produced by the Russian department at that time, who was responsible for all of these things, and that they committed to 4 years of drilling before they shut the mine down and had to walk away because of the breakup of the USSR back in
Actually, Max, you're
72.
slightly different. They did it the other way around. They shut the mine, didn't they? Then they did 4 years of drilling, which is even
Oh,
more.
did they really? I thought they did that in. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, which is just like, you got to love the Russians, right? They close a mine, and when the Russians drill, they do it a whole lot better than we do, right? They drill properly. They don't cut corners, and yeah. So this mine's called Mikathara, isn't it? Mikahara, and it
Mikari.
must be the best tungsten mine in the world, and it sits inside Pure Tungsten, and yeah, very, very excited. There's no reason Pure Tungsten can't be $1 billion company, don't you think, guys? It's a really exciting.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a couple of other things that struck me about just looking at this today. I've been looking at this in quite some detail. Is first of all, the grades in Tajikistan and at Mycura is 0.8 to 0.9%, which is huge. Now, it struck me that the feasibility study that they did, the cutoff grade must have been quite high, probably well above what the industry standard is now. And our first task, I think, down there is to convert that Russian study into a compliant study, and then after that, look at the cutoff grades, because I'm sure that that will extend the life of mine quite considerably. Given that the tailings are coming in at 0.4%, you can only imagine what is yet to be included in the total resource and reserves.
Yeah, what a story. Pure tungsten, guys. So if you click on the link if you're interested in learning more, and Max and the team will reach out to you. We're doing a 50-cent round, 125 million pre-money Canadian valuation. As Max said, I think our Monty's about a 6 billion valuation, and they're just next door. But obviously gold's a big focus for us, and Chancery Royalty, guys, wow, what a busy couple of months it's been for us at Chancery. We only founded the company 4 months ago, didn't we? But we've done 4 very, very substantial royalty producing deals. Tell us about your trip to Ethiopia, Eric, with Max. What do you think about Ethiopia?
We landed in Addis. The mine itself, Tulu Kapi mine, which is the royalty that we got, is in western Ethiopia. Ethiopia is a much bigger country than I'd realized. So we were staying in Addis. What a really wonderful city. The people are absolutely fantastic. Harry hosted us, and he was just such a great host. We didn't want for anything. It was Max and Mario and I, and we just had a really excellent time. And we actually had we got driven out to the Ministry of Defense, and they brought a couple of military helicopters in. We got in the helicopters, and they actually flew us across the country to the west, to the mine site. And as we were flying across, about a 3-hour flight in a helicopter, which is kind of a long flight in a big military helicopter. Anyway, about halfway across, we kind of went over this small mountain range, and then everything just became green and lush. The whole west of Ethiopia was unexpectedly just absolutely beautiful, because the eastern side of it is a little more arid, which is kind of where we were staying. And so that's kind of what I expected Ethiopia to be. But as we got over to the mine site, it was stunningly beautiful. The mine site itself it was really heavily forested with lots of fragrant trees, eucalyptus and all sorts of things. So the air was really nice. The prime minister flew in as well, because it's basically the most important mining project in the country. So we got to meet the prime minister, who's quite young, very friendly. He's about my age, really friendly guy. So that was really cool. Overall, we had a really great time. Every time Max and I go traveling together, whether it's Tajikistan or Ethiopia, we seem to have a great time. Again,
Yeah.
as Max said, some of which we won't repeat on the camera, involving involving the
Yeah,
dinners and the drink.
we were we were very privileged to be given quite a lot of time by the senior management team, and quite often we get asked by investors, what's the environmental footprint like? What's the ESG strategy here? We must have had about 4 or 5 hours presentation on Tulu Kapi's ESG strategy, which goes into such detail about how they're trying to look after the local community, how they're trying to preserve the environment. And basically, it's a real blueprint for how to do everything right, I think, in mining terms, which over the last sort of 20 years picked up a pretty poor reputation in some corners of the globe, which is unfortunate. But these guys, they're doing everything by the book. They've got huge support from the ministry, from all quarters. We were lucky enough to go and meet the Minister of Mines, who's also new in post and also a very young guy, very enthusiastic about what we're doing, and very supportive. So it was quite some trip.
It
So
was.
that guys, for the listeners, Kefi Gold and Copper, we did a 4.8% royalty Chancery for 20 million. That's up to 48,000 ounces. It then drops to 2.8% life of mine. It is a superb fourth royalty for us, isn't it, guys? And I mean, I think I'm just excited when you head off to our next fifth royalty, Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I want you to do a podcast gold from Kazakhstan with you and Max, but we're very excited about Kazakhstan now for Chancery. And one of the reasons why I think we're going to be bigger than Versamet and Elemental royalties in the next 12 months. We don't muck around, do we? We just move quickly. It's a world-class opportunity that's landed on our lap. It actually landed on our lap because of the Iran war, didn't it? Because of the other buyer out of Dubai basically panicked and came to us. So I'm really excited about that trip, and I think you guys are going to have a tremendous time, particularly now you've been to Tajikistan as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be interesting. And one of the aspects of Chancery royalty that perhaps isn't quite evident when you first look is that the amount of mines that we've got starting and going into production this year. So it's very near term in terms of the gold equivalent ounces. And actually, Kefi gold and copper is the only exception in that it's a little bit more what I would call medium term. They've started building there. And what are the first ounces coming through in 28, are they, Jeremy?
Yeah, the early 28, they'll be producing 170,000 ounces a year, which is, I think, we've as a team believe Kefi's mine, Tula Kapi, is the best undeveloped gold mine in Africa, that's quite something, right? And it's also East Africa. As Harry said, Ethiopia is like Western Australia 50 years ago. So very exciting project for us at Chancery. And if you want to learn more about Chancery, we're in the middle of a round at the moment. Click on the link. It's valued at just 0.3 times price to NAV. Elemental trades now at over 2 times, and we think that's our nearest peer. So very exciting times in the royalty space. Very exciting time for our group. In fact, we always joke, don't we, guys, that we're the fastest growing gold group producers in the industry that no one's ever heard of. And I think we're the same. That's exactly with our royalty group, which we're relatively unknown, but we're really making a big splash in this. Let's be honest, I call the royalty guys royalty because they think they are royalty, but we're more common folk. We think like miners. Very excited, I guess, really, aren't we, of Chancery royalty, just focused on purely gold and silver as well.
No, I was wondering whether it would be worth just taking a quick whistle stop around the assets. We've talked about Kefi a little bit, and of course, Kefi was the first royalty that we did, which was outside our portfolio. As Jeremy often says, we're gold miners first, and that's an important distinction between us and a number of the other royalty companies. Of course, Wheaton was I think the standard in terms of being miners first, and then segueing into what, of course, now is a fantastically successful royalty company. And so we've got assets in Finland, Liver Gold. That's what, 60,000 to 80,000 ounces a year, Jeremy, going into
Yeah,
production in a few weeks.
a few months, Max. It would be nice for a few weeks, but Liver Gold kicks off in about June, July. Initial production 40,000, growing to 80,000, possibly 100,000 potential expansion. Fully built, biggest gold mill in Europe, 2.5% royalty there. We also have the beautiful silver byproduct royalty at one of your favorite mines, Max, at Gold Road in Arizona. What an amazing and beautiful part of the world that is. I noticed our general manager, Jim Jackson, had his first 30-ounce gold day yesterday. So well done, Jim, at Gold Road in Arizona. And that probably, if you do 30 of gold, you'll probably get 60 ounces of silver, and we get 90% of that in Chancery. So we probably had a 55 ounce silver day yesterday, which is great at $0 an ounce. Pilar that you're wearing the hat, 8% royalty on Pilar. We're waiting for some substantial funding to come in very shortly, fingers crossed, to really get that mine accelerating now. We've just ordered 5 new pieces of fleet from Resomen and also a Chinese group for modernizing the fleet. What else have we got? We've got, obviously, we have the Kefi royalty. And next week, we'll announce our wonderful soon to be producing royalty in Kazakhstan. That's going to be a 6% life of mine royalty. And that will put us well on track to be bigger than, definitely bigger than Matala, definitely bigger than Vox royalty next year. But yeah, we're definitely in the mood to do even more royalties, aren't we? We just have such a tremendous Barmy Army supporter base, don't we? Who've just really allowed us to do what we're doing, and we love what we do. This is why we wanted to create this channel, Old Gold.
Yeah.
The only other that we haven't mentioned, and perhaps because it's a little bit longer term and we're not counting the numbers in our financial model, is the deal in Papua New Guinea. Uh, and with Eagle, and that is set to be potentially quite game changing again. What's the time frame on that one, Jeremy?
Well, Eric knows that well. I think that's you think that's a pretty exciting project, Eric, don't you, in Papua New Guinea?
I do. I've had some conversation with the main geo over there, Alan, who also, you've known Alan for quite a long time, Jeremy. And just from what he's pulled out of the ground in a very sort of initial dig, and listening to him, having had conversations with him, he's got an incredible intuition, but to listen to him talk about this particular project is very exciting because he thinks that this is got some huge potential, and nobody really knows about it except for us. So, so it'll be interesting to see how this all unfolds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so Eagle Innovation is well, we just couldn't resist one, could we, Eric? And I know you're going to head off there shortly to Papua New Guinea with Alan. And yeah, look, we bought a stake in the company. We think it's a 10 to 15 million ounce target, incredibly high grade. Alan just has a brilliant eye, doesn't he? So we thought, why not? As Chancery back, potentially a next big world class discovery. And I think drilling will start in about 4 months. They were listed in August in Canada, and Chancery is the largest shareholder. So we're very excited, aren't we? I mean, Papua New Guinea was where we started with K92 exactly 10 years ago, and we just couldn't resist the chance to get back. But maybe we'll leave it at that, Eric. And do you want to wrap it up as old gold? Just any other thoughts from this week before we?
I think we gave the audience a pretty good overview of kind of who we are and what we do, and maybe how this channel is going to go. In the beginning, I kind of introduced us before you came on, and I just said, we're going to be having some fun banter about interesting things in commodities and markets, and I think that this was a really good first episode. So hopefully, we'll bring all those subscribers back because I know this channel has been kind of dormant for a while. But we're going to bring it back, and we'll have some more episodes for you guys. So hopefully you enjoyed it. We'll put some links down below. So if you guys do want some more information about any of our companies that we've talked about, feel free to hit those. And our emails will be in there as well. You feel free to hit us up and with any questions you have.
No, great first start at Old Gold. Thank you very much. Thank you, Max. And
Appreciate it.
see you next week.
All right, we'll see you guys. Have a good week.